Hello, welcome to Inspire in Half an Hour podcast. My name is Ruth Aisi, and my guest today is Cooper Rust. Cooper is the Executive Director for Artists for Africa. She's a professional ballet dancer and a professional ballet teacher. She has taught and is teaching many talented Kenyan ballet dancers, including Joel Kioko, who I featured on one of the earlier podcasts. Joel studied dance at the English National School of Ballet and then went on to join a dance company in Chicago. I start by asking Cooper how she got into ballet.
My story is, I think, very traditional coming from the States. When I was 2 years old, my mom and dad took me to see the Nutcracker at Christmas. And it's really traditional. I think it's quite traditional in England as well.
Yes.
And now it's very traditional here in Kenya, but it wasn't then. So we went to Nutcracker when I was 2, and they thought I would probably fall asleep after the first 15 or 20 minutes, but I just sat on the edge of my chair, mesmerized. And afterwards, I told my mom, I was like, I'm gonna be a ballerina when I grow up. And she was like, oh, that's so cute, sure. And I was like, can I start dancing now? And she said, ballet classes like school start in September. So apparently every day I said, is it September? Is it September? And then finally it was September. And so right before I turned 3, I started taking ballet class. Ballet class. I don't know. It's not like we were doing 32 fouettes or anything like that. But we ran around the room and made butterfly arms and I just stuck with it the rest of my life.
That is incredible. And were your family from dance backgrounds?
No, not at all. My dad did some theater in high school. But no, they both have business degrees, my mom and dad. And they were very supportive and very involved parents, but they kind of, just thought we'd go to the ballet one time and that would be that. I don't think they had envisioned when they were in their late 20s that they would be spending the rest of their life driving me to ballet class.
And where have you been with your ballet? What did your ballet career mean? I mean, what did it lead to?
It was very American. I grew up in South Carolina, but then went away to New York when I was 12 to train, and then permanently moved to Florida when I was 13 to go to high school. And then I did a season as a trainee with Milwaukee Ballet professionally. And then I spent 6 years in Las Vegas dancing for Nevada Ballet Theater.
Oh, wow.
And I danced for a company in California. And then I went back home for one season to the professional company in South Carolina before I moved to Africa. So it was all over the States, but all in the States.
And was it very intensive? Was it all you wanted it to be, or was it very stressful? Because you hear these quite, it can be quite a tough life, a ballet dancer.
It is very tough. The training's really hard your whole life. I had a t-shirt when I was a teenager that said, I have rehearsal. And it's absolutely right. Like every time anybody's like, oh, we're going to the football game, or, oh, we're doing this or that. I could never do any of those things. I grew up in a studio. It's a 7-day-a-week commitment. Your whole family has to commit to it. And that's hard. And then injuries happen, and that's hard. And even switching from being a student when you're the best and you're really on top, and then you go into a professional company and suddenly you're understudying people that are 40 years old and 40 when you're 18, 19 it's like, why am I standing behind this dinosaur? I'm 37. I do not think 40-year-olds are dinosaurs. But yeah, there's all those moments, but I love ballet. Like some people leave it and they're heartbroken and they hate it, but ballet is, it is my joy. I still, sometimes this is a little selfish, but sometimes when one of the kids is like, I don't understand, Miss Cooper, would you demonstrate it? I'm like, yes, let me demonstrate it. I'd be happy to demonstrate it for you. So I still love to dance, and I don't have any resentment towards it, but I do understand dancers that do. And I was also really lucky because I always went to school when I was dancing professionally. I got a degree in European history. So if I got a bad cast list, I often got an A on an exam at night when I was at school, or when school was really tough and frustrating, I could take it all out on the studio floor. So I've been lucky never to put all my eggs in one basket, which sometimes when no matter what even if you're, if you're a stay-at-home mom and your children are acting horrible and that's your whole focus, then it's just the whole world is terrible. But I've been lucky to kind of diversify my life a bit.
Yeah, no, which I think is really important. I know when Joel, one of your students, was very much into diversification and talking about how important it is not to just put all your eggs in one basket. How did you get to Kenya?
It leads right off of that, actually. I finally, I was in my 6th season with Nevada Ballet Theater. I just graduated from college because it took me a really long time to get an undergraduate degree because I was working the whole time. And so then I had this off season, 6 weeks, and I was like, I don't have school. What do I do now? I've never been to Africa. I had a life goal to go to all 6 continents, not Antarctica, but the other 6 continents by the time I was 30. So I was like, I have never been to Africa. Maybe I can go teach some math and English for the summer. And I found a program online and the cheapest flight was to Nairobi by chance. There was like, you could go to Ghana, you could go to SA, or you could come something like that. And I looked at the flights, just being a poor dancer, and got it on a flight, came to Nairobi. And so I was working in an orphanage just for the summer to teach math and English. And just because I needed to stay in shape, I looked up online where I could take ballet class. And there wasn't really anywhere. There was nowhere to take class. But I found this program in Kibera slum, in the really big, the biggest slum here in Kenya, in East Africa. And there was already a program down there where an African dancer named Mike Wamaya, who's one of my best friends still to this day, he was teaching ballet. And I called him and was like, Mike, do you want any help? I'm a professional ballet dancer from the States. And he just jumped on it. He was like, yes, absolutely. I would love help. So, so the original intent was to teach math and English, but I think within a day, I still did. I finished my little program, but in afternoons, I was asking the kids, like, any of you guys want to learn this? Does anybody want to dance? And everybody loves to dance. So after my first trip here, I started Artists for Africa. I went home and I told my sister about my experience, and I told a lot of my friends about my experience back in South Carolina, and asked them if we could hold a performance to raise money. And so I got musicians and actors and dancers, all professionals, to come together, and just in a black box theater that was donated. I went to restaurants and asked if they would donate wine and bitings, and everything was free. And then we sold, I think, $25 tickets or something to this show, and 120 people came. It was full for the little tiny theater. And we raised like $5,000, and we sent it straight to the UK, but we had to have a charity to do that. So that's how it set up, was to do that.
And when was that? Which year was that?
2012. We celebrated our 10th year last year.
Excellent.
And last year we had the exact same performance event 10 years later, but now we were in the Township Auditorium, which holds 3,000 people. And we had 10 of my kids in South Carolina from Kenya that are now dancing, like Joel was there, and Lavender, who's down.
Oh, how nice. Oh, wow.
Everybody was there. And it was a huge celebration. We had one of the guys who was a finalist on The Voice was singing. And like, I mean, it over 10 years, it went from this little tiny thing to, it was just a massive performance.
You must have been so proud. That must have been amazing. Who can actually benefit now from your project? Who is it sort of like aimed at? Is it still aimed at underprivileged children?
100%. So the biggest project lately for the last 8 years has been the boarding house. I'd open my professional studio, like my business. I'd open Dance Center Kenya. This is my job, is teaching ballet. And I started, so with Dance Center Kenya, we started with 60 students in 2015 and a little tiny yoga studio. And now we have studios across Nairobi. We have, I think, 500 or 600 students. There's loads of teachers. It's like massive. But my special part of that is our sponsored students. So we have those underprivileged kids coming here. And what I realized back in 2016 is that they can't train at a pre-professional level. Living in Kibera, living in Bomas, living in Kongwari. So I opened a boarding house for the most talented. I moved kids like, well, Joel, technically, he didn't live in the boarding house. I just moved him in with me immediately, and he lived with me. But
Yeah, he told me,
so he became my immediate son. Then I was like, okay, we're opening a boarding house, and I moved 5 kids into the boarding house. But within 2 years, I realized that they weren't getting the education I wanted them to get. So I moved them in with me. The boarding house became my house, and now I have 14 kids.
What, living in your house? So
11 living in my house. Joel is gone. Lavender in the UK, she's gone, and Francis in his 3rd year of university now, so he's gone. So 3 are gone. I have 11 left, but 2, George and Shamik, are graduating this year, and Eugene is going to North Carolina School of the Arts this year. So I'm gonna have a very small family of 8 soon.
Not so small.
but yeah, no, it's so Artists for Africa has gotten really behind that. We do the arts classes like Annos Africa also. We have 1,000 kids, but outside of Kibera. So I decided Kibera is this for anybody that doesn't know, it's a huge, it's like somewhere between 600,000 and 1 million people, but people are born there so much and dying there so much that no one really knows how many people are there. But we have all these other slums throughout Nairobi that get very little funding because they're like, oh, only 700 people live there. So they don't have electricity, even like Kibera has electricity now, but these smaller areas don't get water, don't get anything because they don't meet the number of people to get noticed by a lot of these big organizations. So we started doing Annos Africa work in other slums, and now we have about 1,000 students that way, and 9 arts teachers doing drama and music, ballet, visual art, and African dance. So that's how, so Artists for Africa still has its place in the community, but then we have these special, most amazing of all human beings on earth that we support in the boarding house.
Wow. And how do you choose which ones are going to come into the boarding house?
It's a bit of a process. It takes a couple of years actually, which sounds crazy. But when they're really little, they start in the Artists for Africa Schools program, that program that I was just talking about. Then they get a scholarship. We have a big scholarship base at Dance Center Kenya of about 50 kids. And then after that, if I decide that I can't, but no more, I'm done. It's over. But 14 is enough. But if I can't help myself and I feel like I need to take, because they're so good or they're so passionate or they're it's by default, they end up at my house. And I make a joke because there's these 6 little, well, they're not little anymore, but there were these 6 little boys who during COVID, I was going to let them come stay at our house for 4 weeks to train them in the summer because we couldn't leave as a family. Normally we go back to the state, but we couldn't leave. So we invited these 6 boys to stay with us, and they have never left.
Oh, really?
So when people say they have COVID babies, I'm like, oh yeah, I have 6 COVID babies. But now they're like 14 years old and they're very big. They were 10 and 11 and now they eat a lot.
No, I can imagine. But what I can't imagine is having sort of like 8 or 9, adolescents or young people living in my house and teaching them, managing, it's not easy. It must be quite challenging.
They all dance, everybody dances, but there are different levels and at different levels of commitment even.
Of course.
Gene, for example, the oldest of the 6 little boys, he wants to go to North Carolina School of the Arts, or he is going and he trains 6 days a week. Versus Shamik and Francis and Ephraim, they all dance 4 days a week, but then they play basketball 2 days a week. And Benji's on the swim team, and Davis and Marcelino play soccer or football, whatever you call it. Francis plays the drums. 2 of them play the flute. It's like everybody has their own stuff. And even with like right now, Shamik and George, that 2 eldest boys, they're applying for university right now. So all the visas and everything that go into that and scholarships, and so logistically, I think that is the hardest thing about having 11 kids at home. And those other 3, you think when they move out, you're done with them. But any mom will tell you that is not true. And then Francis, my second eldest, is in Oklahoma. He's studying
Yeah.
lighting design in
I
Oklahoma.
remember reading that. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
And he just, I mean, because they all have their own stuff. So he just moved. He's got incredible grades. This kid has done amazing. Is
Oh,
a A- average for uni, and
wow, that's great.
he just got his first apartment. So he's third year, so he's just moved off campus,
Wow,
and
that's
he
great.
managed to buy a car from his theater job. He like cleans the theater and builds sets at night, and so he
That's
saved. And
fantastic.
I mean, it's like a $5,000 car you probably wouldn't drive yourself, but
Oh, I
you know,
don't know.
he's trying something. And then Lavender, my heart and soul.
What
She
a
just
lovely name, Lavender.
oh,
It's my mother's favorite plant. Yeah, or was.
I'm purple obsessed. My whole life, my studios are purple.
Oh,
My life is purple. And then I met this little girl, Lavender, and she has beautiful ballerina feet, and she's just gorgeous soul. And she just started at English National Ballet, so she's in London.
oh,
And
really? Oh, how
yeah, she's only
nice.
16. You had to be 16.
That
Yeah,
seems very young.
you had to be 16 by August 1st, and her birthday is August 2nd. So she
Oh,
is
so just made it.
youngest person there.
Uh-huh.
And she dances at English National Ballet School from 8:30 in the morning until about 5:30 in the afternoon. And then she
That's
takes a
long.
train back to a host family where she's staying with some friends of ours for these 3 years. And then she does homework, and she's going to American high school online at night. So I deal
Whoa.
with her every day. Right now we're reading Jane Eyre, and we're surviving that. While she's so, like I said, even though there's only 11 in the house,
Yeah.
there are 14 of them that all need attention all
I'm
the time.
exhausted just listening to you.
I think ballet trains us to do. You got to do it. And growing ballet in Kenya is so important to me. My 14 kids are so important to me. I've also started a dance wear company here because I want to build leotards and shoes in the slums. And that is always on the back burner. And it's like right here. And I'm like, I know we can make shoes and leotards here, and we can export them around the world, and everybody wearing Kenyan leotards. I think my biggest problem is all my ideas. And because I just see so many things that are possible, and the limitations of time. I really hate that.
And who motivates you? Do you just motivate yourself to do everything, or because it seems like you're sort of the one who's behind everything and keeping the energy levels? I mean, you obviously are human, and you have some days.
I'm not very good at group collaboration. I'll be honest. I'm really great with one other person. I've got Mike's wife, Caroline, who does everything with me. And she's like, she really oversees it. And then I can come to her, and then with Artists for Africa in the States, my sister runs this with me really well. So I go to her. We have a board, and here we also have a bunch of teachers and a bunch of employees. But then with Artists for Africa here, I have a program manager who oversees all the classes. And so I try to find one person so that I can kind of oversee all of those directors, if you will. It's more like a corporation, even though they're all separate entities, but it's kind of that way. And at home, my son George, who's leaving me, who's going to college next year, he is the most responsible, incredible. Literally this morning, I woke him up at 5:30 because I don't know how to turn on the generator, and we didn't have any power. And I'm like, George, come turn the power on. But so yeah, he's kind of my partner in crime at home. Pam, my eldest daughter, she's my partner in crime in the kitchen. I call her. Like, I try to set everything up before, but then I can call her and be like, so the spaghetti sauce is on the stove. All I need you to do is make pasta, throw the bread in, and steam some broccoli, and she can sort that out for me. And so I just find a partner.
No, I can see it sort of works well because you give them very clear lines of responsibility, so there's not too much overlap, and people are very can be accountable. Exactly. No, children that don't make it, because you have all these success stories which are amazing, but are any of these children that you've chosen that are sort of working towards their dream, do some of them not make it, and what happens to them?
So if that question means like doesn't make it as professional ballet dancers,
Yes.
only Joel sort of has. But even Joel right now is sitting in South Carolina waiting for a visa, not dancing professionally. So
Yeah.
in that sense, nobody's made it yet. It's all either in works. But like Francis decided he didn't want to be a ballet dancer. And so now he's a straight A student at university. George and Shamik, who are about to graduate, George is going to go to uni for business and dance, and Shamik's going for engineering.
Okay.
So they use their dance. They're incredible dancers, but
yes.
And I don't look at them as not making it. They just didn't want to be professional ballet dancers. I mean, Shamik's going to be able to fund the ballet when he's an engineer, you know?
Yes, of course. No, definitely. Yeah.
I hope they'll teach class when they're older at night, maybe work in a community project, or I think ballet's in their hearts forever, but they're not. So Eugene wants to be a professional ballet dancer. He's only 14 and he's going next year. And Lavender wants to be a professional ballet dancer and she's 16 in London. So out of the 14 of them, maybe 3 of them end up dancing. But I don't think that means we failed with 11 of them.
Not at all. No.
We created 11 other world leaders who are gonna, I mean, how these kids can relate to anybody. If they go to the slums and eat ugali with their families, they sit with the US ambassador here.
Yes.
No, and
they've made it basically.
So it's just that ballet was just, but that's also what I want the world to know is when you give your child an education in the arts, it's not because you want them to be a painter. It's because you want them to be a well-rounded, incredible human being that looks at things differently and sees color and has passion.
That's great, actually, that you have that, vision, that it's not like you're just driving everyone to be the ballet dancer that you are. Yeah.
They will give back to the arts and recognize what the arts have given them. And you know, if one of them becomes the president of a bank, they should, fund their local nutcracker for sure. But
exactly.
Michelle, my youngest daughter, she's 15 now. She's my most normal child in that she's very angry sometimes, and then she's not anymore other times. And she's quit ballet like 3 times and come back 3 times and switched to contemporary and does a lot of hip hop. And then her deal is that she makes straight A's. So as long as she has perfect grades, we can't argue.
Yes.
But she is like the teenager in our house. And she quits all the time. And then that's okay. As long as my main thing is like, she's also told me she wants to go to uni in Korea. I think that's as far away from me as she can get. But if she has the grades and she can get a scholarship, more power. I'll go to Seoul and visit her. They definitely don't have to dance. It's only what's in your heart. And it's funny that they all keep coming back to it. Even Francis in Oklahoma had quit. And then he just danced in a local nutcracker there as the prince doing the sugar plum pas at 20 years old. He hasn't taken dance in 2 years. He was never going back on stage again. Well, and then I see in the newspaper from Latin, Francis Waweru dancing sugar plum cavalier. Okay. So I mean, dance will be in their hearts forever, but I don't think, it's not the only way.
So you love Kenya. I get the impression that, you had all these dreams to travel to all the continents. What is so special about Kenya, apart from all your children, which obviously probably is what keeps you there?
I mean, besides the fact that it is the most amazing place on earth, I've even got my citizenship papers in here. I'm just waiting. I will be in soon, hopefully. I just feel like there's more here. There's more sad stuff, a lot more sad stuff, and a lot more possibility, and you can have a lot more impact. For me to make, my biggest skill is ballet. It's the thing I've studied the most.
Yes.
For me to have an impact in the world of ballet in America or in Europe would be almost impossible. I mean, I'm just not that good. I don't think any performance that I've ever given is as impactful as what I'm doing here. And I did used to think the biggest gift that I had to give the world was what I was doing on stage. But now I'm really, really quite confident that I am not Natalia Makarova. I am not Marcelino Sambe. I am not any of those guys. And I love them and I respect them. And I love every moment I spend on stage. But I do want to give back to what art has given me and what ballet has given me. And I think I'm best served doing that here.
So what are your plans now? Are you going to just carry on doing the same and trying to, get more children in? Are you?
No more children.
No more children.
I'm going to find a way to transition into a mentor instead of a mom.
That makes
I'm going to learn how to continue without, because I do understand I commit to these people, and then my family and my friends and the organization has to find a way to pay for it. And now that we're starting to pay university fees.
Yes.
It's like, I've got to find a way to not be so on top of it. So that's one thing.
No, it makes sense.
I've also in the last year, managed to find a life partner who lives in Mexico.
Oh, how
so
nice.
I'm trying to manage that. He'll be here next week. He's flying in to see Midsummer Night's Dream.
How lovely.
But I would find the least convenient person on earth.
Mexico. It's so far.
But he's traveled here 3 times already this year, so he's pretty committed. So that's in the works.
He's not a dancer. Is he a dancer?
No, he's a business consultant.
Okay, but that's very good.
But it's so great. He works on Dance Center Kenya, and he does math homework with the kids online.
Oh, how nice.
He's a dream.
That's fantastic. Oh, wow. Congratulations.
So that's also in the works. And then this dance wear I really want to get. And then by the time Joel is ready to retire, I have my big dream is to have a professional company here. And so that's 15 or 20 years off, but I would love for them not to all have to leave, but because right now we're creating some of the best dancers in the world, at least I think so. And sending them. So hopefully, but after my kids graduate, so Mercy's the youngest and he's 13. So in about 5-6 years, we reassess and figure out how we can have our own professional ballet company here in Kenya. And that's the long-term dream. I don't know if I'll ever, it might be my students that have to get that done. I might have just gotten the ball rolling, but we'll see. It's a life goal.
No, that sounds wonderful. What advice would you give to anyone that's listening and wants to get into ballet, and they're not from a really privileged background where they can start dancing at the age of 3?
I would ballet is for everyone. Even I have some incredible adults who come on Friday morning and take ballet class from me for the first time in their life when they're 45 years old, and they're awesome. Ballet has a place for everybody. We have trainee teachers who start when they're 18 and 19, and they come to the studio every day and they work and they work and they work. And in 4 or 5 years, they can teach young people ballet. It's just asking. Nobody gets to come and take by sitting at home and wishing. So find a studio, talk to somebody, make it a priority, keep asking, keep going, and figure it out. I think there is a place for everybody in the studio.
And what do you get out of dancing? I mean, you say now you still have that huge passion. What does it make you feel when you dance?
Nirvana. For me, movement. That's the best part about ballet when you're really trained, is that when you're little and when you're training, it's just technique, point your feet, straighten your knees, blah, blah, blah. But once you got the technique in your heart, and this is what I want to tell all young dancers, is get your technique solid, because then when you dance, you're free, because your stuff is there for you. Your technique is there and everything is set, and you can just feel it and move and love it. And and I still feel taking ballet class to me is the most fun thing.
And you are so inspirational, and you've achieved so much and made such a huge impact and changed so many lives. I mean, it's just incredible. So thank you so much, Cooper. Thank you.